ABC News headquarters in Washington, I'm Howard K. Smith.
I'm Harry Reasoner in New York. These are tonight's headlines. The United States and South Vietnam are considering an extension of the Christmas holiday truce, possibly until late January. A witness at Lieutenant Calley's trial says he saw Calley kill a priest and shoot at a small child at My Lai. James Farmer, the most prominent black in the administration, resigns as Assistant Secretary of Health, Education, and Welfare. And the Ford Motor Company and the United Auto Workers reach agreement on a new contract. Howard?
Reports tonight from Scott Osborne on the homecoming of a soldier, Roger Peterson on the trial of Lieutenant Calley, Bill Werdum on Ethel Kennedy's visit to California to support the lettuce boycott, Tom Jarrell with more on the case of the would-be Lithuanian defector, Dick Shoemaker on a frightening Hollywood production about ecology, and tonight's comment on how this nation can pay its way. The antagonists in the Middle East who get angry over ceasefire violations just haven't had enough practice. The world's oldest, regularly scheduled, massively violated ceasefire is the one that is agreed to every year about this time in Vietnam. They're now planning this year's installment, as ABC State Department correspondent John Scally reports.
The most ambitious ceasefire plan yet proposed for the Christmas-New Year's holidays is taking shape here at the State Department. It would stop all shooting and bombing in South Vietnam for about 5 weeks, beginning with Christmas and extending through the Vietnamese New Year's, January 28. It might stop the war even longer if Hanoi is willing, thus improving the atmosphere for peace talks. But no one knows if Hanoi is interested or if its troops would abide by a long truce any more than they have respected shorter truces in the past. But the fact that an extended ceasefire is being considered seriously shows how desperately the State Department is searching for a way to crack the diplomatic deadlock that has paralyzed the search for peace in Southeast Asia. This is John Scally, ABC News at the State Department.
A temporary truce is already here for some Americans. 200 servicemen have come home from Vietnam under a liberalized Pentagon leave program. Among that first group was Sergeant Philip Hantz, who arrived in Oakland, California last night, New York City early today, and then began the final drive to his home in Pennsylvania. ABC's Scott Osborne was with him.
For Sergeant Philip Hantz, there was no time to waste. No time to call his wife Rhonda and tell her he will see his 4-month-old son Tristan for the first time. No time to notify his mother and father, Mr. and Mrs. Paul Hantz. Instead, it will be the best surprise present he could give this Christmas. This is how it happened.
You home alone?
Where's his baby?
You best believe I do. I bet you never thought I was coming, did you? Hey. Hey, little father, you know who I am? Huh? You don't know who I am, do you? I'm your father. Where's Mom and Pop at church? He's got your eyes.
That's what everybody says, but I can't take credit for him. Here's some just as good as mine.
Yeah, nice little round eyes, too.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, no, we're slanted. Hey, can you talk?
No, I can't talk.
You can't talk yet? Can't order beer or anything good? I'm surprised he doesn't cry. Eat the lights or anything.
Dad will cry.
No! Come on. No!
Oh!
Hey, Pop. You're on television, too. Oh. I'm gone for a little while. Hey, come here and kiss me like me. Hi, Mom. How's it going, Pop? Gee. I'm really home. Hey, what you crying about? Hey. Hey. Oh,
Dear son.
oh, he's terrific, isn't he? He's something else. Chip off the old blocker, that's all I can say.
What?
I'm home on 2-week leave.
Why did you?
I didn't know I got it till 2 days ago. They told me in the morning, and I left that afternoon to come home. So what do you think of the Army now?
God, our prayers are answered.
The sudden journey from Vietnam ends with sudden emotion in Telford, Pennsylvania. Sergeant Huntz must return to the war within 10 days. Scott Osborne, ABC News, Telford, Pennsylvania.
I got it just this morning. I got a new record.
We'll be back with more news in a moment.
You know, since the invention of color TV, there have been two newsworthy improvements. Automatic fine-tuning in 1965, brighter picture tubes in 1969. And now, from General Electric Research, comes the one-touch color system. It synchronizes critical color controls, so you get a more perfect color picture automatically. Look, this 25-inch picture has been badly mistuned, but push this button once, and the GE one-touch color system takes over. Now the picture will stay this perfect day in, day out. Flesh tones won't vary regardless of most camera or channel changes. Let me demonstrate that again. I'll scramble the picture, then push the GE one-touch button. There, a more perfect color picture automatically. The one-touch color system. See it demonstrated at your General Electric dealer.
The court-martial of Lieutenant William Calley resumed today, and two more prosecution witnesses placed Calley at the scene of the alleged massacre at My Lai. The testimony of Calley's radio operator, Charles Sledge, seemed by far the most damaging of any witness so far. ABC's Roger Peterson reports.
Two more former members of Lieutenant William Calley's platoon took the stand today to say they saw Calley kill civilians at My Lai. Charles Sledge was Calley's radio operator. Thomas Turner was a team leader in the platoon. On the stand, Sledge said he saw Calley and Sergeant David Mitchell with a group of 20 to 30 Vietnamese near a ditch. Prosecutor Aubrey Daniel, what did Calley do? Sledge, he talked with Mitchell, then they pushed the Vietnamese down into the ditch and started firing. People were screaming and falling. A little later, Sledge said Calley walked away from the ditch and saw a man Sledge described as dressed like a priest. Sledge said when the man denied he was a Viet Cong, Calley hit him in the mouth with his rifle butt. Daniel, what happened to the man? Sledge, he fell back and put up his hands like he was pleading. Calley stuck his rifle in his face and blew half of his head off. Thomas Turner said he saw Calley firing into a group of people in the ditch, but said Paul Meadlow was with him, not Sergeant Mitchell. Daniel asked what else he saw. Turner said for the next hour to an hour and a half, 90 to 100 Vietnamese were brought to the ditch in small groups, shoved in, and he saw Calley fire into the ditch each time. Turner said later he saw a young Vietnamese woman walk toward Calley with her arms over her head. Turner said Calley shot her several times in the chest. At this point, the defense argued testimony about the woman should be stricken because she was not mentioned in the specific charges against Calley. After an hour of arguing, the judge agreed and ordered the jury to disregard any testimony concerning the woman. Roger Peterson, ABC News, Fort Benning, Georgia.
We'll be back with more news in a moment.
No matter how strong a man is, a closed cough can still put him out of control. That's why we created Vicks Formula 44 Extra Strength Cough Mixture. It relieves your cough with a cough suppressant as effective as codeine, but not narcotic. Vicks Formula 44. It gives you the strength you need to help keep your cough under control.
Yardley was made for the morning.
But the night was made for Yardley.
Yardley was made for the morning.
But the night was made for Yardley.
Yardley was made for the morning.
But the night was made for Yardley.
Yardley of London, aftershaves and colognes. You'll like yourself in the morning.
I still like it at night.
This is a time of reshuffling inside the Nixon administration. James Farmer resigned this afternoon as Assistant Secretary of Health, Education, and Welfare. He was the highest-ranking Negro inside the administration. The White House said that Farmer and the President parted on, quote, a very, very good basis. Farmer himself said today that he chafed at the ponderous bureaucracy and longed to return to his old role as, quote, advocate, critic, and activist. There are several Democrats who would like very much to move into the White House. The latest Harris poll released today still puts Senator Muskie well out in front of Senator Kennedy by 18% when all voters are polled. But check only with the Democrats and the figures change dramatically. Kennedy moves to within 4 points of Muskie. Signs of this tightening race are clearly evident in the Senate, as ABC Capitol Hill correspondent Bob Clark reports.
The two front-runners appeared at a rally called to protest cutbacks in free legal services for the poor. In their speeches, Kennedy and Muskie displayed the contrasting political styles and oratorical techniques that could decide a battle for the Democratic nomination. Muskie spoke in solemn tones in what has come to be known as his Lincoln-esque or Gettysburg Address style.
We cannot permit our dedication to the principle of justice to be deterred by the purveyors of division who seek to harm legal services by drawing lines of personality or political party. Let us rather unite in a common concern that truth may be determined and justice assured.
The Harris poll showed Kennedy leads Muskie among blacks and low-income groups. He pledged in his more emotional speech to fight for the rights of the poor.
And now I think the real question is what's going to happen within OEO now? What's going to happen to the legal services within? I can make a pledge to each and every one of you. If you're not successful in holding the problems of regionalization here internally in terms of the legal services, we're going to do it on the floor of the United States Senate next year.
For what it's worth, it was also noted today that somebody has scratched the words Mr. President into Kennedy's Senate desk. Bob Clark, ABC News, Washington.
For 5 months, Cesar Chavez has been trying to unionize the lettuce growers of Southern California. On Friday, a judge ruled that his nationwide lettuce boycott is illegal and Chavez was thrown into jail. Then last night, his followers marched through the streets of Salinas in a massive show of support, and among them was the widow of Robert Kennedy. ABC's Bill Werdum reports.
The predominantly white citizenry of Salinas has little sympathy for the Chicano field hands. Last night, some of them were openly hostile. Mrs. Kennedy flew in from San Francisco to join the march. She was apprehensive, but she was well protected. Rayford Johnson, her late husband's aide, was among the bodyguards. Probably nowhere is the Kennedy name more revered than among the Mexican Americans. There was more than sentiment behind Mrs. Kennedy's appearance last night. The union needed publicity. The police say now they regret their decision, but they allowed Mrs. Kennedy into the jail to talk with Chavez. Her appearance drove the white crowd into a frenzy. "Ethel, go home! Ethel, go home!" they shouted over and over. Across the road, the 3,000 Chicanos took up a counter chant: boycott, boycott. The tension outside the jail rose alarmingly. There was a fight over a flag, and the police hustled Mrs. Kennedy out the back way and off into the night. By this morning, the passions had cooled in the early light, and the demonstrators had dwindled down to a faithful few. And besides, it was Monday, and there was work to be done. Chavez says that he'll stay in jail as long as necessary. And the people here, maintaining this round-the-clock vigil, say they'll stay here as long as Chavez is in jail. The police say they don't really care, as long as the people here stay out of the way. Bill Werdum, ABC News, Salinas, California.
A potential strike was avoided this afternoon. The auto workers and the Ford Company reached a tentative agreement, and the strike deadline has been lifted. The settlement was reached after 28 hours of nonstop negotiations. No details were released, but the auto workers' agreement with General Motors was used as a guideline for these talks. That agreement was denounced by the president last week as inflationary.
Joan will hear you. But the house smells funny. Yeah. House-atosis.
You need Wizard Air Freshener. Wizard cures house-atosis fast.
Everything's just lovely, Joan. And no more house-atosis.
Wizard cures house-atosis fast. And now bring the fresh, natural fragrance of Lily of the Valley indoors with new Lily of the Valley Air Freshener from Wizard.
How does a nice girl like you clean an oven this dirty? With Easy Off, the oven cleaner with 33% more power cleaner than another spray. Here's proof. We'll spray this side with Easy Off, then this side with another spray. Minutes later, wipe. See, the other spray left grease, but Easy Off got it all off. Warm oven or cold, Easy Off gets oven sparkling clean. Easy Off with 33% more power cleaner in aerosol can and paste jar.
And now, a word about new Kent Menthol.
Wow. Kent got it all together. Kent got it all together.
Wow. New Kent Menthol 100s. Crisp, greasy flavor, exclusive micronite filter, good rich taste. They're all together now.
All the refreshment of menthol. All the good things about Kent.
If you ever suffer from acid indigestion, this little tablet contains one of the most effective medicines ever discovered for it. In tests at a famous college, it proved to neutralize excess acid in a matter of seconds. Prepared for a little shock, it's Tums, now in 5 flavors. It'll make your stomach feel better now.
The Lithuanian sailor who was denied asylum by and beaten up on a U.S. Coast Guard ship has sunk without trace in the gray morass of Soviet bureaucracy, but he promises to remain a vivid nightmare to the American bureaucracy, which is churning out one report after another about what happened. Today, the Transportation Department blamed the State Department blamed the Coast Guard, and the White House said it was all due to faulty communication. In the process, some new details were learned about the incident. ABC White House correspondent Tom Jarrow reports.
The Coast Guard, after getting practically no advice from the State Department, actively helped the Russians recapture the Lithuanian sailor who tried to jump ship to freedom. Once Simas Kudryka had safely reached a Coast Guard boat and requested asylum, the Russians did not immediately express a concrete desire to have him back. However, Rear Admiral William Ellis radioed orders to ask the Russians if they wanted him back or not. Only then did the Soviet captain make such a formal request. When Soviet crewmen were invited on board to retrieve Kudryka, he tried to jump overboard, but was restrained by 2 American crewmen who held him until the Russians grabbed him and beat him without mercy. Finally, bound in a blanket with the Russians still beating him, Kudryka was transported back to his ship in a small boat provided and staffed by the Coast Guard. Today, the House Foreign Affairs Subcommittee began investigating. A lead-off witness was Deputy Undersecretary of State William Macomber, who was questioned later by newsmen.
Mr. Macomber, should this man have been returned to the Soviets?
No, he certainly should not have.
If the department had been asked, what would its advice have been?
It would have been to, under no circumstances, return him to the Soviet authorities. Been to keep him until the matter could have been carefully sorted out whether he was entitled to asylum. But under no circumstances should he have been returned at that time.
The White House is emphasizing steps have been taken to avoid such an embarrassment in the future, knowing, as Harry Truman liked to say, the buck stops here. Tom Jarrell, ABC News at the White House.
The Swiss ambassador to Brazil, Giovanni Bucher, was kidnapped today on a busy street in Rio and whisked away in a red Volkswagen. This is the 4th kidnapping in 14 months by Brazilian terrorists. The 3 other diplomats were traded for political prisoners.
If you ever suffer from acid indigestion, this little tablet contains one of the most effective medicines ever discovered for it. In tests at a famous college, it proved to neutralize excess acid in a matter of seconds. Prepared for a little shock, it's Tums, now in 5 flavors. It'll make your stomach feel better now.
Noses. What can cough drops do for them? Well, we made a different kind of cough drop. New Victors. It's the only cough drop with thousands of pockets of cooling menthol eucalyptus vapors. So Victors not only soothes your scratchy throat, but helps your stuffy nose feel cooler and clearer. Victors, the cough drop for your throat that goes to your nose. Any nose.
One of the senators who last week voted to take the United States out of development of a supersonic commercial airliner today proposed this country use muscle to stop the SST anywhere. Senator Gaylord Nelson, the Wisconsin Democrat, introduced a bill to prohibit supersonic transports from operating in U.S. territory. Without the ability to serve the United States, he said, it would be economically impractical for other countries to build an SST fleet. The Secretary of the Navy, John Chafee, today said the action of a Navy base in dumping millions of gallons of oil sludge into the ocean violated the spirit of existing law and government and Navy policy. He was explaining to the Senate Subcommittee on Air and Water Pollution about the latest incident in which a Navy installation in Florida, which has no other means of disposing of oily bilge, dumped 500,000 gallons at sea. Senator Edmund Muskie told Chafee he found the whole thing incredible. The director of the new Environmental Protection Agency, William Ruckelshaus, said today he had written a letter to the Navy about the oil dumping. The letter, he said, took the position that it didn't sound like a very good idea. Ruckelshaus said he is also studying a proposed sale of oil leases in the Gulf of Mexico, set for next week, at a site where an offshore oil platform is now on fire. Some years ago, John Christopher wrote an excellent science fiction novel called No Blade of Grass, in which a virus from communist China killed all the green and growing plants in the free world. Since then, we have had so much progress that you can get this idea into a movie. The beast from 20,000 fathoms is now the pollution from next door. Dick Shoemaker reports from Los Angeles.
What would happen if suddenly all the grain and grass in the world started to die, wiped out because the world had become too polluted? That's the frightening premise of a new movie on ecology. It was produced and directed in England by Cornell Wilde. The film is called No Blade of Grass, and it goes beyond the ordinary documentary.
There have been wonderful documentaries about our ecological problems. I think people look at them objectively, and they reach people intellectually, not on a gut level, not enough to get them really worked up so that they're angry and they want something done now. Many of the things in the picture are now frighteningly real.
Spooks, move to your left, please, and Davy also.
The story deals with a world famine in 1974. And we see in England, as decent people suddenly find themselves in a country which is panic-stricken with only a week's supply of food left. And people in a week return to savagery and barbarism in complete basic survival. Attacks by motorcycle gangs, for example, under conditions of anarchy, are inevitable. Any gang, in fact, that is organized and ruthless. Rape, pillage were the order of the day. On one level, it's a very actionful suspense thriller about survival. But really what it says is this can happen to you and me here very soon.
You may disagree with the director and his vision of what would happen when a famine hits the world. Of course, that was only a movie you saw. Yet too many times in history, science fiction has turned out to be science fact. Dick Shoemaker, ABC News in Los Angeles.
We'll be back with tonight's commentary in a moment.
Yardley was made for the morning.
But the night was made for Yardley.
Yardley was made for the morning.
But the night was made for Yardley.
Yardley was made for the morning.
But the night was made for Yardley.
Yardley of London aftershaves and colognes. You'll like yourself in the morning.
I still like it at night.
What a good time. Kent 100. What a good time for a Kent.
Today's Kent 100s have a great new taste. A mild taste no other 100 can equal. Because the exclusive micronite filter smooths the smoke, lets all the taste come through.
Kent 100. What a good time for a Kent.
Popular king size, too.
As happens when a reporter is isolated on a distant island where papers arrive a day or two late, I have, for the past fortnight, been thinking some cosmic thoughts. Here's one that is useful, if terribly obvious. No matter what else we need to keep from drowning in our rising sea of problems, we first need more money, and there isn't any. As Congressman John Burns said of states that are asking to share federal funds, all we've got to share is a deficit, and they can have it. Meanwhile, New York City cuts back police amid rising crime, garbage mounts to alpine heights. Cities, Newark is a vivid example, look as though swept by war, not due to devastation, just due to dilapidation. No money. Well, I made a little list and came up with two big sources of new money. One has got to be economic growth, stimulated at any risk by the government. That annual increase of $40 billion in our national wealth is urgent. We cannot afford periods of no growth as at present. That's up to Mr. Nixon. The number two source is organized crime. Alone in America is it allowed to absorb between $15 and $50 billion a year that we need for other purposes. Prosecution has little effect. The only recourse is to make legal the illegal things that crime exploits, the richest of which is gambling. European nations which legalize things people are going to do anyhow make revenue fortunes with which to meet their problems. There are some other things, but those are the big two. They would pour at least $50 billion new dollars a year into useful circulation. All you got to do is change some outdated puritanic attitudes, but that, unfortunately, is the toughest American problem of all. Harry?
Thank you, Howard. I suppose most of you are as aware as I am that a change in the man who reads off the news at you probably won't improve the news much. I am certainly no smarter and no more of a journalist than Frank Reynolds. I would be proud to be as good, and I would not pretend to be as wise as Howard K. Smith. The news goes on. The men at these desks, I think, are like the format and type style of a newspaper. All we can do is not interfere with your understanding of what we can find out. We'll try to find out as much as we can and tell you as much as we know. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all my friends who pointed out that this is Pearl Harbor Day. This is Harry Reasoner. Good night.
This has been a presentation of ABC News. Tim McIntyre and David Shiner guest star on The Young Lawyers tonight at 7:30, 6:30 Central Time. Then at 9, 8 Central Time, watch All-Pro running back Leroy Kelly lead the Cleveland Browns against the Houston Oilers on an NFL Monday Night Football game here on ABC.
For the